The Reserve Residences, the new heart of prestigious Bukit Timah, is not just an integrated development, it's an integrated transport hub, one of only 8 in Singapore. So it should be a home run no-brainer, isn't it? Hold that thought, cause the data may suggest otherwise. So before we dive into the data, it's important for us to first establish the difference between an integrated development and an integrated transport hub. Now, we've done a real deep dive into integrated developments before, and that video has close to 9,000 views, so check it out over here or in the link in the description below. So an integrated development consists of an MRT, a residential component, and a commercial component, right? It is a term mainly used by URA, and including reserve residences, we're going to have 20 of them in total. I'm going to put that list down over here. Integrated transport hubs, on the other hand, is a term primarily utilized by LTA to describe a development that has an air-conditioned bus interchange, a commercial shopping center, and an MRT. And we have 12 of them in total all around Singapore. Now, the thing is, not all integrated transport hubs have a residences on top. That brings us to this rare overlap of an integrated transport hub with a residences on top. Now, we are only going to have 8 of them in total once all of them are completed. The thing is, now there isn't really a term to describe this rare overlap. So I shall name it Integrated Development Plus. Now, you are hearing this for the first time here at The Right Move, so I am going to trademark it. Now, jokes aside, let's dive into the data. So there's only 5 integrated development plus completed developments on the market right now, right? We have Campus Heights located in Sengkang, the Centuries in Boon Lay, Bedok Residences in Bedok, right? Hillian in Bukit Panjang, and North Park in Yishun. Okay, there was a significant gap between the first 2 and the rest, right? So I'm going to deep dive into the 3 more recent ones and try to establish whether or not, right, they are profitable as compared to their peers that are completed within the same time period, because that's the kind of question that you want to have answered, right? Should I pay a premium for a integrated development plus or a integrated development as opposed to, let's say, a normal development that is not sitting right on top of an MRT, right? Which one exactly is more profitable? And we will answer that question right now. Okay, so first one, right, Bedok Residences. So what I've done is, number 1, find developments that have been completed around the same time period, okay, about the same size, okay, and then rank them in accordance with to the annualized capital gains. So over here, Bedok Residences, notice how it's not exactly doing very well, right, with the 2.6% annualized capital gains, right, compared to, let's say, the Treasure Trove, Waterfront Isle, 8 Courtyards, right? All of these developments, Treasure Trove in Punggol, Waterfront Isles in Bedok Reservoir, that was during the period that the MRT wasn't up yet. 8 Courtyards over in Yishun. I would say locations traditionally not considered as good or as mature as Bedok. Okay, so some of the interesting results to note. Okay, now maybe a teaser right here. Maybe you guys can try to see what is the reason for this underperformance, because we're going to move on to the next one, which is North Park Residences. Okay, so here, similarly, right, developments completed around the same time, ranking them out in terms of annualized capital gains. So we see in this example, right, North Park actually come out on top, okay, with 3.1% annualized capital gains. Okay, next one would be Hillian Residences at Bukit Panjang. Now, for this one, Hillian came out number 2, second, right, losing out to only the Nest that is located in Pasir Ris. So what is that one interesting data point that I observed? Okay, so what I did was to average out the average selling price, PSF. Okay, and for this particular example, Hillian, after I've averaged it out, I'm going to put the number somewhere here. Okay, Hillian's average PSF is only about 15% higher than the average of all, if I add all together. Okay, North Park is also about 15% higher than the average, while Bedok is a cool 25% higher than the average. So my conclusion is that the market is willing to pay a premium for the convenience, a premium for the location. But the key thing over here is to be aware of how much premium exactly is the market willing to pay. And the data suggests it is between a 15% premium that's comfortable. If you touch 25%, you probably wouldn't do so well. Now, let's get back into the review proper. So I decided to switch things up a little bit by throwing some of the data and analysis right to the start of the video, because that's what everybody likes. So now let's come back to it. I'm trying to keep this review shorter than an Avatar movie, which is why I'm going to breeze past some of the more nitty-gritty stuff, and since like most of the other videos would have covered them anyway, but if you want those nitty-gritty parts, right, I'm going to put them all in the link and the description below, right? You can click inside and then you can find out everything you need in that website. Okay, if not, right, I'm going to touch very quickly on some of the things I like and don't quite like about the development as a whole, and then moving on to the highlight, right, the 3 things we like and don't quite like about the reserve residences. Now, diving into the project proper. So the reserve residences is designed by perhaps one of my favorite architects in Singapore, Woha Architects, right? I love how they always put in lots of greenery, not just around the development, but on the development itself. You can see this from the Park Royal on Pickering, right? The floating gardens, the entire facade, the climbing gardens of the Osia Hotel, right? This is located near Tanjong Pagar, the School of the Arts. So they do a fantastic job of adding greenery onto the facade area. I really like their developments. Okay, so now the facade of the reserve residences really speaks a lot about, like, you know, one look you can tell is by Woha Architects with all the greenery and whatnot, and it merges very nicely into the Bukit Timah hill, right? At least that's what the architects and the landscape architects were trying to do, right? Based off what they were sharing with us during the review, right? So linked to Beauty World MRT Station, we have the bus interchange and a professionally run mall, right? As you can see over here, the mall operator will be Far East Malls. So now a professionally run mall is something that has been lacking in the Bukit Timah area, right? So a lot of the other malls are smallish malls, if not they are strata titled malls. So they are not to the scale of, you know, what you would expect in a prestigious area like that. So I think this the reserve residences with its mall is gonna be a real welcome change, and of course a real crowd puller for the entire district that lacks a mall like that, right? There's also going to be service residences, right, being run by Far East. It's something that Far East really likes to do. Now, as a owner of a development, right, if you have service residences within the development, it's something that you can also see over at Riviere. I can't really recall for Far East what are some of the other developments that they do that, right? But with service residences there, as a owner, how can you imagine it to be, right? Because these service residences are owned by the developers themselves. They are incentivized because the residences provide them with cash flow. They are incentivized to upkeep the place to a certain standard so that their service residences can continue to generate them that kind of income. So you will expect a higher level of upkeep of the general vicinity. So it is a good thing, okay? Skipping through. So I really won't really be going through like all the nitty-gritty small developments, like I mentioned. One thing that I must say is that it's all jutted. It's not a one standard block. I guess their rationale for that is to really try to maximize the privacy, right? But breaking down in general, right? So we have and they broke it down into a tier like that, right? Basically reserve right, is for the for you to be able to buy in the first place, right? You must be quite rich already, right? Expected prices 2627 PSF, right? So reserve residences is 1 or 2 better rich then horizon is richer, right? The Creekside with low-rise 3-4 bedders with 3.15 meter ceilings are quite a bit richer, right? And the richest folks, as the word suggests, live on the treetops, right? These are basically sky bungalows and sky penthouses, crazy rich, right? They will occupy the treetops, of which we only have 15 units, right? As you can see from here, very much like the hierarchy, most numbers on the more affordable ones, with the prime ones with the least numbers, okay? Generally, first impressions of the reserve residences, of course, Far East will never disappoint in terms of the kind of facilities, the quality of their products, right? And right, I don't think you'll be disappointed this time, Now, first impressions of the facilities, right? It is a development developed by Far East, and they never disappoint with regards to their facilities, right? And I don't think there's much to complain about based on what I see. Of course, most renderings, they always appear nice, right? In terms of the pool, right, it's going to add up into 100 meters, right? It's not going to be just 100 meter pool, it's a couple of pools adding up to 100 meters, okay? I do like it that they have the sky facilities, and all of this will look into this view, which is impressive, right? So this is going to be one of the highlights of this particular development, means selling points of this particular development, okay? And also do note that the reserve residences is going to be one of the highest developments in that whole area, right? So this is going to be one of the points I'm going to highlight later on why I like the reserve residences, okay? Okay, but now one thing to note is that the development is primarily north. So this is the north. So there's going to be quite a lot of units that's going to be facing the west. I think it's only Far East as a developer that have the guts to do this kind of thing, right? But I think they're trying their best to sort of like angle it here and there to try and avoid it, but do note quite a lot of them will have the west facing, okay? Because you see over here, west are coming in this way, all kena the west sun, okay? Okay, now scrolling down, right, some of the renderings. I'm going to jump straight to the floor plans, I won't really touch the creek floor plans and the treetops floor plans because these are huge, and I'm gonna get dizzy trying to look at those floor plans. And also, to be fair to the floor plan, to treetops and creeks, because I don't think the layouts like that do the unit justice. I think it will definitely look a lot better when you see it for yourself, and of course when you do it in the show flat. And of course, right, if you're rich enough to buy these units, you won't bother with what I have to say anyway. You're gonna buy it because you like it, okay? So now we just talk about the reserve one, Going down. Okay, one bedroom, like pretty standard, nothing much. Okay, so now looking at the floor plans, right, one thing to note is the reserve residences, even though it's a GLS, they did not have to build it using PPVC. Which is something that's quite interesting. So now, without having to do PPVC means that you can hack the walls, and that's going to be popular for those people who like to hack walls. Okay, but right, first things first, the one bedders are pretty standard in terms of the layout, right? I mean, nothing much fancy you can do with one bedders. Okay, next up, moving on to the two bedders. Okay, moving on. So for the two bedders, they are all done dumbbell style like this. This is pretty standard. What they did that was quite interesting, I would say, is the ones below, where they actually shifted the kitchen to one side to give you a real like proper dining area like that. I thought that was quite interesting. Okay, and they've also managed to pull this off while keeping it at 614 square feet, which is good, right? Because it keeps the quantum low and affordable, right? I'm just not quite sure how bright this place will be, but I think I feel it's quite interesting, right? It segregates the area out and gives you a real proper dining area. So I do quite like this, right, as compared to the standard one that comes straight in, because in this case the dining always seems to be a little bit awkward, right? It's quite hard to find where exactly to put the dining area, because I reckon here, right, in this you can do a very nice feature cupboard and whatnot. Yeah. Moving on. My favorite one, right? Let me just jump straight into my favorite one, right? The rest are just adding one toilets lah, My favorite ones, going down, right? This is the 2+ study. Okay, nicely done study, because you can just create a door over here. So this one essentially can function as sort of a small 3-bedder. Okay, and coming in at a size of only 721 square feet, that is quite a good size. Okay. Yes, this one is my favorite one. Of course, most of you will complain, say, number one, weird lah, because you come in, straight away is the kitchen. But I like to see the positives. Okay, number one, you have a window over here, so that helps makes this space quite bright. Number two, the study can function as a stand-alone bedroom because there is windows. This is an actual bedroom that they are basically just selling you as a 2+ study, because I don't think this is a huge room, right? But I think it can function as a stand-alone room with a smallish bed. Like, it wouldn't be a full-size bed because you compare the size over here. Yeah, it wouldn't exactly be a full-size bed. But if you want to buy this for investment, I think it will work perfectly for those that are into co-living. You can cut this off, right? Functions essentially as a 3-bedder, and coming in at 797 square feet. I think quantums will still be quite okay, right? You definitely pick the 7971 over the 807 square feet one, because don't really see much of a difference. But one thing good is really natural ventilations all around, right? Only the master bath that doesn't have a natural ventilation. If not, this bath, dining, and also the kitchen has a natural ventilation over there. And now for the 3-bedders. For the smallest 3-bedder, 883 square feet. Right, one of the interesting things, right, good things that I like, they managed to somewhat enclose the thing. Right, but based on the floor plans, I don't think they are putting in the sliding glass for you. But I think you can easily add that in if you want to. Right, but it being enclosable, right, I feel is a good thing. Then it's somewhat of a dumbbell layout with one bedroom on the side. I like it how it can be turned into a junior master. So for those who are investing, and if you are renting this out, I think you're gonna be able to get a pretty decent rental, right? Because it's considered as 2 master bedrooms. Okay. Of course, with a somewhat dumbbell layout, it cuts out wasted space in terms of corridor, and they've actually utilized this corridor really well by putting in the washer dryer and the DB box over here. I think they may do this up into somewhat of a storage cabinet just to maximize the whole area. So I think really cleverly utilized, and of course 883, very good size considering that the rest of the 3-bedders in the area are like 900 plus, 900 plus, right? Only View at Kismis that has all the mini units, right? If not, they all come in at quite a big size. Mayfair have right? Mayfair. The Link has some errors. There should be a 2-bedder, 3-bedder, right? So the Link also does have smaller 3-bedders, but the majority of them are 900 square feet and above. So I think coming in at offering an 883 square feet one with this kind of layouts, I think is quite good, right? This is one of the layouts that I quite like. 93, can't say the same for the 936 and the 9471 with this odd looking master bedroom, right? This master bedroom, I just don't really like the fact that there's this long walkway, so lots of wasted space over here, also lots of wasted space over here. In my opinion, a lot of corridor space here as well, and of course this odd shape is a bit funny And on this page, right, it has both the layout the 3-bedder that I like the most and the 3-bedder that I like the least. Okay, I start with the one that I like the most. This one, for those of you with sharp eyes, you can tell that this can be easily created into a dual key unit, right? All you need is to extend the wall over here, shift the door here, and then you can create a door here with one entrance here with a full 2-bedder enclosed kitchen, very nice, and a studio apartment for rent. Right, I think you can even create over here. I think the best thing is just the doors here and here already. Also, this is a dual key possible unit. I don't think there's a lot of such supply over in D21, right? Coming in 958 square feet, so hopefully quantums don't burst too much, right? I just do a quick calculation times 958. About 2.5 million thereabouts if they come in at 2,600 PSF. I think rentals will be quite good. Okay, this one, right, 1044 square feet. Now you burst 1,000 square feet, so your layout better be up to scratch, right? I don't think so. First things first, the kitchen is puny. I would have honestly much rather they do what they did at Affinity by just putting in utilizing this whole thing as a kitchen. Okay, but by doing this, you're gonna face a lot of issues selling in the future because this is a 3-bedroom premium with a tiny kitchen. Right, then with it being done like that, now you have long walkways like that, huge bummer for me. Of course, right, it being a 3 premium, you need to have your household shelter, and a household shelter right smack in the middle of the house. You cannot move anything. So again, right, that is not something that I'm a huge fan of lah. Right, it's good that we have this window over here, but other than that, I can't seem to find huge plus points with regards to these layouts. Okay. Now moving on to the 3 plus study. So over here in the 3 plus study, right, as you come in, the utility and the kitchen is split up. Okay, so what I like about it is that I've always liked kitchens that are connected to the balcony. I just think it makes a lot of sense. It helps with the ventilation. This most likely will be done in glass, and so the place looks huge, right? If you stand over here, it will look really nice. Okay, I just feel that the dining is a little bit awkward. That is like sort of in the whole like entrance area. You could, right, however, say, maybe I put the dining over here, or the dining over here. There's a round table over here lah. Bedroom 3 all the way on this side. Can't really decide whether I like it or not, right? But of course that helps to reduce the walkway area over here. What I don't quite like is the study being tucked away here that, you know, you can't really hack it. I mean, you can, in essence, shift the door for the master over here to then have an enlarged master, but if you can't hack this, or maybe if you can hack this, then of course you can have a much bigger walk-in wardrobe for the master bedroom lah, right? If not, the study is a bit of a not here not there, because you can't really hack this unless you want to enlarge your toilet, or you can't really hack this as well. Okay, other than that, I'm quite okay with this layout, right? Much prefer this layout to this layout, to be frank. I wouldn't be touching too much on the Horizon floor plans, right, with their 3 premium and 4 bedders, because number one, if you can afford to buy these units, you really wouldn't, you're just buying it because you can afford it and you like it, right? And you really wouldn't give much thought on what I have to say about them. And secondly, because they're really quite unique, okay, I'm just going to put them over here, and we might get a headache if I'm going to zoom in and out, and because their shape are also a little bit odd, okay? And like same for the creek and the treetops one, right? I don't think the floor plans, looking at them on the 2D angle, really do them justice lah, huh? Because it's just going to look like they have odd shapes, right? But I think if you really look at it in real life, it's gonna look much better lah. Okay, so with that, let's move on to the 3 things we like and don't quite like about the reserve residences. And on to point number 1 on what we like about the reserve residences, and this is going to be a controversial one. It's the price. Now, hear me out, right? You're gonna bash me because I'm saying 26, 27, 28, 29 PSF for 99 years in the RCR is a good entry price. But that is why I started the entire video with the whole premise that integrated development plus, right, they deserve a premium over the other new launches, okay, because of their amenities, their convenience, and everything like that, okay? And we've seen how they have generally done quite well, except for perhaps Bedok residences, and that was because of the price differential, right, between Bedok residences and the other developments within the same period. So now if you follow the news and you see the kind of prices being hit by like-for-like developments in the other parts of Singapore, you're gonna realize that actually 26 PSF. Of course, you try not to hit too close to 3,000 PSF, but if Faiz were not to be that greedy and come in at 26, 27, I don't think that gap is too much above the other developments right now, and that may be a good gap, right? And we're seen based on past data, right? If the gap is between 15%, they tend to outperform the other developments of similar age. And a bonus point on top of that is that this is going to be Far East's first integrated development plus, right, a integrated transport hub with a residence on top, and I don't think they are going to disappoint. And to point number 2 on what we like about the reserve residences, future supply. Now, for us to understand that, no best thing to use than the URA master plan. Let's dive right into it. So this is where the reserve residences are going to be located, right? And if you're familiar with the area, the current car park, right, open air car park, has been slated to be another commercial development, right, which is why it's in this light blue, right, commercial and residential development, right? It's, well, the color says so lah, but in the words they write subject to detailed planning, right? But if that does materialize, right, it's going to be definitely much more expensive, right, or more expensive than what we're going to see at the reserve, giving it a little bit of an upside pull. Now, as we zoom out, okay, what's exciting is actually 2 MRT stations away, and we know this huge area over here, right, the current or the old race course, that's going to be shifted out really soon, right? I believe it's end of this year, if I'm not wrong. And the government has already said that they intend to put residential units there, right? A mixture of private and HDBs now. The introduction of HDBs in that area. And if you follow us, you know how big fans we are of, like, you know, introducing HDBs into a particular area, how important HDB upgraders are in the entire ecosystem of how the Singapore real estate market is being built on, right? Because having HDB BTOs there, provided they are not done in the prime location housing scheme, which I think they might, okay? But if not, right, that is going to introduce fresh liquidity into that area within the next, right, after the MOP, because it's going to be a real gold mine, and that's going to introduce a lot of upgraders into the area, and they'll be out on the hunt to buy back in the area. Because if you have a Bukit Timah HDB, I don't think you'll be moving too far out anymore, okay? Of course, right, that's on HDB. But if they come in with new private supply, again, right, that being quite far down the road, that's going to create a upside pool for you guys, right? And if it pulls up, attention definitely will go towards the reserve residences, right? So I'm layering point number 1 and point number 2 on what I like together, okay? Another one, right, that you don't have to look as far, but not many people know, right, is over in this old Holland Road area. They've already carved up this huge piece of land, right? Right now it's empty land into a lot of smaller plots for residential condos. Right, this one already carved up, already planned for residential use, and this one most likely will be private lah, because it's gonna over here is all very good class bungalows area. So all this again, right, once they come up, upside pool, okay, over here huge area in residential color, but placed as subject to future planning. So what I see is that a lot of future developments, even over here as well, Clementi, New Town, all of this new developments coming in to give you a upside pool. Of course, then there's the flip side to things, which is on the supply side, right, which we will talk about later. And on to the third and final thing on what we like about the reserve residences is iconic status. Located in an iconic place. Okay, so now what do we mean by that? If you followed the channel, you must have heard us mention this before with regards to having a development in a highly visible area that has and will help in the organic growth of demand for that development. So what do we mean by that, right? This particular area is where a lot of the folks staying in Bukit Timah will go for their marketing, for their food. The students go and hang out in that area after school. So people will grow up, and people will become accustomed to this development, tying in this development to that location itself. They think Beauty World, they think the reserve residences, they think about the mall over there. And so whenever people, let's say they want to go and stay in and around the area, or buy a house in and around the area, rent a house in and around the area, they will go and naturally, the first thing they're going to search is the reserve residences. And that's going to bring a lot of eyes, a lot of attention to the place itself, right? All this price aside. And over the long term, that will help prices start to move. Even if, let's say, you really enter at somewhat of a higher price point today. Of course, it helps that the development is being developed vastly different from the other condos in that area, with its sky garden, with its facade, with the facilities and everything. So hopefully this will help overcome some of the things that we'll talk about later on, the 3 things we don't quite like about the reserve residences. If you've enjoyed the review so far, please don't forget to like and subscribe, as you'll help out the channel a ton. For those of you who watch our videos, you know how much blood, sweat, tears, effort we put into every single review. The only thing we ask for in return is for you to smash that like and subscribe button to give us that little bit of motivation to do the next one. Now, back to the video. And on to point number 1 on what we don't quite like about the reserve residences, the oversupply. Now, I've consolidated the table to show you guys, right, the supply of similarly aged developments in and around the vicinity. And you'll notice that their sizes are also quite similar to what we have to offer over at the reserve residences with a lower PSF. Now, what that means is that you're not going to get the new versus old supply dynamics that I've talked about so much, especially this year in the reviews that I've done. I'm going to put the links down in the description and also hopefully insert those cards somewhere in this video. So with that, you need to really depend on the future supply, which I've mentioned earlier, to help pull your prices up. And you sort of have to make a bet, make a guess on how much somebody is willing to pay for your exit price. And with that, we move very nicely into point number 2 on what we don't quite like about the reserve residences, the holding period. So without the whole new versus old supply dynamics working for you, there is a lack of a short to mid-term exit, right? Because you are just not sure about whether or not somebody is there that is willing to pay, or we have not yet seen transactions of the kind of exit prices that you hope to exit at, right? So in the absence of which, you may have to factor for a slightly longer holding period. And that's something very, very common actually if you look at integrated developments and also integrated developments plus. But thankfully, right, as compared to the other launches, right, that I've talked about, that point that I talked about right at the start of the video, right, the gap is not that far, right? So if FICE is generous enough to offer up prices at closer to 2.6 PSF and not at the 3,000 plus PSFs that they are offering at One Holland Village, it's still a reasonable consideration in my opinion. And on to the last point on what we don't quite like about the reserve residences, and I think this is going to be a pretty obvious one, it's the noise. Okay, having been flanked left, right, center, up and down by roads, and not just any other road, the PIE, the development is going to be noisy, right? As much as the architects have tried to, set back the residential units, the units further away from the PIE, I don't think there's any running away from the fact that you're going to have to deal with the noise. Staying there, number one, through the period that you intend to stay there, and number 2, when you want to sell your place, right, at a price that currently most likely it hasn't been achieved yet for that particular area. So conclusion is, then coming back to point number 2, a longer holding period is what you probably would want to factor into your purchase plan. So in conclusion, the 3 things we like about the reserve residences. Point number 1, it's price. Now it's price compared to other new launches this year. So if you've watched the earlier part of this video, you will know that if the price at the reserve residences falls within a sweet spot range of about 15% premium on top of the other new launches, it will help the reserve residences outperform in the future. On to point number 2, the future supply. So we've shown that with Turf City moving away and other interesting plots subject to future planning in and around the area, those new supply will help the reserve residences pull up its price in the long term. And on to point number 3, its iconic status. Now, it's going to be located in the heart of activity in and around the Bukit Timah area, so everyone's going to know about the reserve residences. And in the long term, that's going to bring organic demand to the development. And the 3 things we don't quite like about the reserve residences. Point number 1, the oversupply. Now, the supply in and around the reserve residences are for very similar age, very similar size, but at a lower price. So now that's probably going to affect you a little bit in terms of your likely exit. And with that, I move on to point number 2, the holding period. With the lack of a short-term and mid-term exit strategy, you may then have to factor a slightly longer holding period. And this is very, very common with integrated developments because of the premium that they command over the rest of the developments. And lastly, point number 3, which is the most obvious point of all, the noise. Can you profit from the information that I've just shared with you? Of course you can, if you're seasoned and experienced and very clear as to what you want and don't want. But after doing this for close to 10 years, I came to realize that not many people belong to that category. Most people want someone to chat to and to find out if something is right for them. Many people reach out and choose to work with us because they want reassurance, additional analysis, and to make sure. It's important to make sure because you want to find out if something works for your specific scenario, your wants, your needs, your financial situation. Some things look good but may not be suitable for you. Some things may work for others with their strategy, their plan, their execution, but might not work for you. I can't in this video tell you if something works for you or not unless we have a chat. So here's what we can do for you. If you're interested in maximizing your property moves that play into your strengths, why not reach out to us for a no pressure call where we can discuss in greater detail on your goals and develop a property plan that can get you there in the safest, fastest way possible.